And greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Wanted to come talk to you tonight about that kidnapped by the system. If you look at the thumbnail, you see a picture of me and my son, and that is the only picture I have of me and my son. And you'll notice that in that picture, he's intently looking at me. My son died when he was 6 months old with SIDS. And I questioned for a long time. I asked that reason. Why? Particularly at 6 months of age. And I've come to understand that in all the glory and wisdom of God, it was to pass on a simple message for me that I could hold on to simply by myself. And that is the fact that in that short span of life, the one thing that I remember about my son is no matter where he was at when I walked into a room, no matter what he was doing, he would cock his head towards me and that smile would appear. So in part of my learning from that, I've come to understand that the very simplistic thing in my son's life was to teach me how to smile. Because that's what I did every time I looked at him and he had that smile. It was just natural reaction. We come to destroy that natural reaction through this dogmatic system of teaching people how to remain in their emotions and use their emotions to make decisions. So when we're talking about kidnapped by the system, it's not particularly related to my son, but the things that happen in the system that cause various different atrocities. So we're going to take a look at a video tonight, a couple of them actually. The first one, and the link to the first one is down in the details section for anybody who wants to pull it up and follow along or watch it on their own. And of course, I want to remind everybody to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's a PayPal link down below for anybody who wants to share some love. And the panel link is there for anybody who wants to join the panel. All are appreciated. And let's get into it. So go ahead over to Auditing Mississippi. She's been at it for about a year. She's got 31 videos with 277 subscribers. And the one we're looking at today oops, wrong one. Where did I see it? Hold on, folks. I'm having a hard time finding where that video was at. Let's see if we can't just use the back button.
Okay. What's your name?
No, this isn't the right one either, I don't think. Let me double check. Let me get to my panel. There we go. So this is the one, and that's why I titled it Kidnapped by the System. So again,
MDCP is having continual physical and legal custody of our soldiers.
DCFS is trying to take us away from my mom. again, and they already did before.
It's traumatizing and whatnot, but we need it, and we'll get through it.
And the caseworker literally wasn't working with me at all.
Ethan's aunts say they called CPS more than a dozen times to report Ethan and his 3-year-old brother being abused, but caseworkers failed to keep them safe.
Did a Buffalo mother's fight to educate her own children actually land her behind bars? Tonight, C.O.W.A.R.D.S is facing charges while her 2 young children sit in foster care.
She tells us her decision to homeschool her children put a target on her back.
So when you don't put your kids in that public education system, they take it as an attack on your children, saying that you're not qualified to educate your children, and will use that as an excuse to try to take them from you. And they will lie to do so.
Look what you're doing to him. Look at him. Come on, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. I got it all. There we go.
For 4 years, I've been confronted with families struggling to remove their children from the clutches of Child Protective Services. I wrote a scathing report last year on the corruption in Child Protective Services for accepting adoption incentive payments under the Federal Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997. The Department of Child Protective Services has become a protected empire built on taking children and separating families. This is not to say that there are children and separating families. Empire built on taking children and separating families. Built on taking children and separating families. Built on taking children and separating families. This is not to say that there are not those children who do need to be removed from wretched situations and need protection. However, my report is concerned with the children and parents caught up in legal kidnapping. Legal kidnapping. Children and parents caught up concerned with the children and parents is concerned with the children and parents caught up in legal kidnapping. Is concerned with the children and parents caught up in legal kidnapping. Is concerned with the children and parents caught up in legal kidnapping.
I want to ask everybody, are you a witness to the word of truth? If they go around lying, that is tampering with evidence.
They can try to
Can I please let them outside?
They know there's neglect going on. They know there's an increase of children dying from it. Do you know? So the real issue, again, is what do you know? Do you understand what's happening by supporting such a system? By allowing it to do what it's doing? Like I said, it's not about destroying it. It's about not allowing it to do to the extent what it's doing, destroying families, while at the same time having the discernment to recognize families and the children that need to be saved from them because they are hopeless. I don't think there are many. There are some, I'm sure. I've seen great atrocities. I know of a lot of this stuff, and you do too. Why is it you're not learning from it? Why is it that we're having to deal with this stuff? These systems assume we're incompetent, and they just manage the idiot child, akin to medical care. They can't be cured. Patients get shots, drugs, and surgery.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So we're going to take a look at the next one. A disturbing case from people that supposedly have authority and help with these CPS people destroying these families. And I'm urging the people to understand that this happens a lot more than you might think. There were a lot of incidences that you saw in that first portion of this stream so far. And I've showed many where teachers have been pulled out for drug use and alcohol, being drunk on the job, high on the job, this and that, and doing the same kind of shit. It extends to all venues. And particularly sad, one of the greatest venues that it's supposed to support the living soul. Deputy and wife allegedly tried sex trafficking child in disturbing plot. Law and Crime Network. So go over and sub for free. Try it free or subscribe, I guess. Do a lot of this stuff. So I'm not claiming that anything they say is true. Just reposting what they put up for review and educational knowledge through research. So let's find out what they say. And hopefully we won't get struck. Gave them a copyright notice. You'll notice the thing on the bottom scrolling across shows that fair use, all clips are used for fair use commentary, criticism, and education purposes. Okay, so let's get into it.
A couple went from public servants to defendants locked up behind bars. A Missouri deputy sheriff and his 911 dispatcher wife were arrested for attempting
911 dispatcher wife. Think about this stuff, folks.
to do the unthinkable, as this husband and wife duo were arrested in late May on charges of attempted sexual trafficking of a child under 12 and attempted use of a child in a sexual performance.
Well, the investigation by the law enforcement officers takes whatever turns it takes. And it sounds like there was an investigation here in which they located a social media account that was associated with one of the pair of the couples, and that there was an uploaded video of suspected child pornography. And so that, I assume, set them on the course of the rest of the investigation, which yielded, it sounds like from what we're reading, additional evidence that suggested that there was an attempt to traffic a minor.
That investigation did indeed reveal a sinister and shocking alleged plot.
They look like normal people, everyday people, don't they? This is how sick our society has gotten. Normal, everyday people, Hitler's willing executioners.
Authorities caught wind of that plot, and the case unfolded in March of this year. According to the Missouri State Highway Patrol, investigators received information of a social media account which had uploaded a video file of suspected child pornography. That account was allegedly associated with 39-year-old David Blankenship. Once investigators dove deeper into the account, they unearthed disturbing conversations between he and his 28-year-old wife, Carly. And authorities believe those shocking conversations support their belief the couple was actively planning to traffic a child and use that child in a sexual performance.
Well, in this case, it sounds like there was an attempt in a really kind of classic sense of trafficking to locate children for the performance of sex acts, to film them and then have them available on a platform of some type to exchange. And so sometimes when we talk about sex trafficking, more obscure types of conduct that actually does constitute sex trafficking. But in this case, it's really a classic example of using another human being in furtherance of an act of sexual performance, which, of course, as a minor is illegal.
Prosecutors.
So they could have done their sex scenes by themselves, but they involved a child. And I don't know if that fetches a higher price or what. I don't have that kind of knowledge. The knowledge I do have is that's fucking sick. If you want to be sexually perverted, there are many ways you can do that without the involvement of a child. To take it to the extent to involve a child is a very defamation of God, for every one of us is created by God. These people look like everyday normal people. These are the people that you elect to these capacities and allow to hold the positions such as this 911 dispatch. Do you feel comfortable using that system in any manner to call for help? I mentioned earlier my son died of SIDS. Part of that situation there is when my son died of SIDS, and after we buried him, my wife, my common law wife, the woman of my children, she went berserk. Started threatening suicide, and when the neighbors called 911 to send help, they sent the police instead of an ambulance. Shit didn't go right from that point on. People got arrested. They got no help. They got arrested. Sick. And of course, in that arresting, they were then trafficked.
Alleged the couple were planning to do more horrific things to young children. The state says the Blankenships were discussing drugging and having sex with the child, filming it, and then selling the video. And reportedly, the two were planning to take advantage of children nearby. The Blankenships were allegedly having sexually themed conversations in TikTok DMs, plus were sharing videos of young girls they found attractive and discussed their sexual desires involving children under 14. Reportedly, the two were planning to take advantage of children nearby, as the couple allegedly discussed how to locate children who are local. And according to attorney and former prosecutor Rena Paul, the alleged attempts were enough for law enforcement to charge the married couple with the crimes.
I think
Absolutely. I have no problem with anybody thinking about this shit in their mind. I think a lot of people do it despite the fact that it's so fucking wrong. But when you start carrying that act out, showing that you don't have the control to say enough's enough, and act like the true spirit of a child of God, your own damn self, something's wrong. Something's seriously wrong.
I think when an investigation like this takes place, what law enforcement is looking for is evidence of crime, right? So they're going to go back and try to figure out if they can find evidence on the social media platforms, which it seems like they have, suggesting that there were attempts made. And the interesting thing to me about this case and all attempts cases, when you don't charge the completed crime, but you're rather charging the attempted crime, is that you are proving something that didn't happen, right? So you're having to present evidence of something that almost happened, or there was a substantial step in furtherance of what happened. And that, as a prosecutor, I imagine with this investigation, they're looking for evidence of that. So that's
So merely just showing intent that can then be followed up on, and then any perception that they have that you're actually following up on it, they've got you. And I think that's a perfect time to do it. And that's when you show that you don't have control, that you are psychopathically insane. In my opinion, of course.
a different kind of investigation than a completed crime. So they're not really, it doesn't sound like this is a case in which they're looking for children that were the victims of this sort of conduct, but rather the conduct of the charged and accused people and what they did in furtherance of the potential crime.
She says the attempted sex trafficking charge doesn't mean the pair had to move or take the children across state lines for it to be considered sex trafficking in terms of the law.
When you think of trafficking, you think of movement.
Okay, so, oops, wrong one. If a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, and maketh a merchandise of him, or selleth him, then that thief shall die, and thou shalt put evil away from among you. To take a child of God and inflict your own malicious will for $1 is that very thing. When you take possession of a child and treat it in such a way, in any manner, whether it be for sex or for physical labor, so that you can profit off of that, you have kidnapped. Again, in my opinion,
Physical movement, which is not always what it means. It can also just mean the inciting or the bringing in a child to perform the sex acts, which are filmed. That in itself, it can be trafficking, even if we're not moving, taking someone physically from here to there. Certainly, there's different federal statutes that govern versus state statutes. Here, it's a state case, so it's being charged locally.
Paul explains the conversations between the Blankenships they seemingly thought were private could come back to haunt them while prosecutors make their case.
Every social media platform has risks, and some, I believe that some believe that some are more private than others, and that their conversations on those social media platforms might be private, and often that is not true. And it's possible for law enforcement to obtain those records depending on what the platform is. But no, I'm not surprised.
Just like every keystroke has a timestamp on it, and then is certified, securitized in that electronic blockchain system, creating an absolute chain of title. And they can and will use every word against you in a court of law. It's already out there as soon as you hit that key. Just like audio and video, it's already out there. You can't stop it anymore.
Certainly, we see evidence routinely as attorneys in the field of the use of social media platforms for trafficking. Evidence can come in really any form, and it's just a matter of what you make of the conversations. It sounds like in this case, there was not only evidence that was recovered from the social media platforms, but also from the home. And while I did not read anything about what was recovered from the home, it sounds like there may have been additional evidence. Sometimes evidence you can expect to be in a home would be evidence that's contained on computers, as you would imagine. In a case in which we're talking about the distribution of images, potentially you're looking for evidence of phones, potentially additional conversations that may have been had, any writings that might be in the home, things like that. But there's no one piece of evidence that is needed. Rather, it's what the investigators locate and the analysis of whether or not that's sufficient to make out the crime that's being charged.
On May 31st, David and Carly Blankenship were formally charged, each with.
So again, like I said, there are different levels to it. So once you start possessing material, and remember, this goes to the aspect of education. See, I've got this material here talking about pornographic material and child sex trafficking, but I'm using it for the research and education, and it's not actually got any images of those such penalized limitations. It's got pictures of the perpetrators, and we're discussing it from that aspect. So it is a topic of discussion in that aspect. But if I were to twist it around and start showing pornographic pictures of children to explain what these people were doing further, that would be on me. And that's what I can't do.
With one count of attempted sexual trafficking and one count of attempted use of a child in a sexual performance. Here's what else we know about the Missouri couple. According to Carly Blankenship's Facebook, the two got married in 2022, and they were parents to 3 young children.
It's hard to make judgments about who can commit such a crime, and really the evidence that the investigators located takes them where it takes them, and they follow, it sounded like here, a lead. It happened to end up being someone, I don't know if it was someone that they work with or if it was someone at least in their county, in their district, but certainly I'm sure that was surprising to them given their prominent role.
With their parents behind bars, it's unclear if their children are with relatives or in the custody of the Department of Children and Families.
Well, it remains to be seen. It's different in every state. And so the Department of Children and Family Services will potentially become involved, and we'll see what happens here. Certainly there's going to be.
Well, of course they will. They've got good logical use of their discernment too, don't they? My question is, why isn't the family stepping in? That's my question, people. Why isn't the family stepping in?
Families.
Well, it remains to be seen. It's different in every state. And so the Department of Children and Family Services will potentially become involved, and we'll see what happens. Will potentially become
families.
Well, it remains to be seen. It's different in every state. And so the Department of Children and Family Services will potentially become involved, and the Department of Children and Family Services will potentially become involved, and the Department of Children and Family Services will potentially become involved. The Department of Children and Family Services will potentially become involved, and
I urge you not to, folks. I urge you to learn how to use your own discernment and show that you have a greater discernment from the start and know how to help hold families together, because that is what is important to you. I understand the safety of the children. But again, my problem is, why did no one else in the family, my father or mother? My mother had 7 brothers and sisters. My father had 13 brothers and sisters, and not a one of them stepped up. Instead, all 5 of us ended up in a foster care system. So when the CPS has a potential to be involved, that is the potential. The destruction of the family.
we'll see what happens here. Certainly there's going to be an analysis of what to do with children if both of their parents are no longer able to care for them because they're in custody. There's a procedure that's going to be different in each case in each state.
And more surprising details, the two were public servants. I just want to take a really quick break from this really disturbing story. I don't know about you, but I'm always very curious about who I'm surrounding myself with. But that's where our sponsor of this story, TruthFinder.com, comes in with a solution. TruthFinder is one of the largest public record search services, not just across the US, but the world. And their goal is super simple, to help people like you and me learn the truth about the people in our very lives. So here's how it works. You go on their website, TruthFinder.com, say was terminated immediately after the department David was terminated. According to the sheriff's department, David was terminated immediately after the department's command staff was briefed on the allegations. The department said they were shocked and saddened by the nature of the allegations against their former employee. Meanwhile, his wife Carly worked as a supervisor for St. Francois County 911, but has since been fired from her job in light of the disturbing allegations. Despite the two being public servants, a judge later ruled to issue no bond to the pair.
No bond. No bond. This is sick shit, people. You're looking at heathens.
When a judge makes such a determination, they look at different things. They look at whether they are a flight risk, likely to return to court. They look at their potential dangerousness and whether or not they're likely to cause more danger if on the street. It's a balance that every judge makes in each case, depending on the charges and on the personal circumstances. They look also at criminal history. It sounds like, I don't know if there was criminal history here, past acts, past potential demonstrations of a lack of ability to follow a law or to come back to court. Those are the types of things that are looked at when we talk about bail.
With Blankenships behind bars, Paul says their arrest could open conversation between parents and their children about being safe online.
Yes, parents need to be quite cautious of social media, as do children. Social media and platforms, any platform that is on the computer or on the...
Your social media platforms are not private, guys. Understand, even if you think you're in a private conversation, even if the platform supports privacy and says it's private, the guy on the other end might be the fucking agent. Okay? But even that doesn't matter because it's not private. Like I said, just like the text, each keystroke has a timestamp and a security certificate. Same with your voice imprints and video imprints. It all goes through the Federal Communications Commissions because it's a communication system. You big dummies.
Cell phone can and has been used to traffic children, to entice children, and certainly that's something that parents should be on the lookout for. And so I think communication between parents and children around this topic, open communication, depending on the age of the child, having the settings, the parental settings, and the ability to review that as a parent and actually have some control over viewing what your especially young children are able to see online. Those are some of the things, and more generally education around this with children, which is depending on the age of the child, done differently in different settings, in school, in parent groups, etc. But certainly education and communication. I think a headline for parents and for children is just a sobering reminder that.
And the sobering reminder here is that when they start introducing this transgender shit and all those psychopathic sexual materials in their reading materials, I think we need to start rethinking this public education system again and its enforcements and what this lady just said and how it's supposed to be a matter of education in that system against this stuff, while at the same time they seem to be promoting the motherfucking shit. Excuse my passion, folks.
That safety is an important topic that we need to be focused on in every arena, and that we should be, supporting each other and supporting parents in alerting kids and educating kids around this topic.
David and Carly Blankenship both are still being held behind bars with no bond. They are scheduled to appear in court again on June 11th. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Milner.
And so there you have it, folks. I hope you fucking wake up and start understanding. I don't want you to believe me. I don't want you to believe the neighbor. I don't want you to believe the government. I don't want you to believe in your mother, for crying out loud. I want you to learn how to do your research so you actually learn instead of just remember all the bullshit. Stop believing the bullshit. Anyway, with that, we're at the end of the stream for tonight, and I want to thank everybody for support. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I remind you there's a PayPal link down there for anybody that wants to share some love. And as far as me, you know I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. Let's say I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That's on you. So may God bless you and have a good night. Bye now.